Hello, I'm Kathy Bissell with the Golf Show 2.0. I'm here today with my co-host, Gary Van Sickle, and we have a special guest, Billy Draddy, whose clothing line has been making all kinds of headlines lately. Gary, why don't you start?
Well, the company's called BDraddy, and if you're looking for classy golf shirts in an era where the popular trend seems to be craziest tablecloths you can find, these guys are the opposite. Billy, tell us about your family history and how you got into the clothing thing, and why you wanted to start another line of golf shirts in this really competitive market.
Yeah, well, I'm the third generation in my family in the sportswear business, and I'm the third generation to sell golf shirts to golf professionals. And
Oh,
so I really grew up in the golf apparel business, and I really went to the school of osmosis in terms of most of the stuff that I learned about the golf clothing business. All those little conversations I would overhear, or little things I'd hear my dad say on the phone or whatever, all went into the memory banks and have been serving me ever since. Um, I spent the first part of my career actually not in golf, but in the outdoor industry. I worked for Timberland for 10 years.
oh, okay.
And, I got a call from Hickey Freeman probably around 1999, and they wanted me to come and design the Bobby Jones golf line, which
Oh,
made a whole lot more sense to me, considering I was neither a hiker, biker, rafter, or climber, and the great outdoors was the golf course to me. So it actually worked out great. But ever since I've gotten into the golf business, there was never really a golf shirt that I was quote unquote happy with. If you remember, Bobby Jones used to make those double mercerized shirts, which were the perfect lead into tech, because once you'd start sweating in them, they'd stick to your back, and
oh, okay.
you'd have to put an iron to them or send it to the dry cleaner in order to clean them.
Yeah.
And so I was never very much into that, but I also wasn't into, the technical golf shirts, which looked like they belonged either in a health club or a nightclub. So from the time I got in golf, I was always kind of thinking about, well, what is it that people really want to be wearing when they're out on the golf course?
That
And
is
it
such a
always,
good. That's such a good question.
Yeah,
yeah,
really.
yeah. And it always made sense to me that, a, a, I don't want to say unmercerized, but a golf shirt, a cotton shirt that hasn't been mercerized, a cotton shirt that really exists on what people love cotton for, which is a softness,
Yes.
a comfort, a wearability. So when we launched, it just seemed like there was an opportunity in the marketplace for cotton once again. And when I went out there, I wasn't trying to say you don't need your tech golf shirt anymore. I was more like framing it like, if you were owned a fruit stand, you wouldn't sell just oranges, right?
Right.
Even though you could sell more apples than oranges, you'd sell them both. And that was kind of the thing. I'm not saying you don't need to throw out all of your tech golf shirts. I'm saying there's a customer there for both.
Yeah, well, I think John Ashworth got back into the
Yeah, he
shirt
did.
game for the same reason. He didn't
Yeah.
like the options, like a lot of golfers didn't like the options,
Yep.
and there weren't enough options. And now, you got your average 25-year-old is just buying the craziest pattern he can find, and he didn't even know what the shirt's made of.
Yes.
So
Yes.
when he becomes more sophisticated, he's going to eventually catch on, I think.
Yeah. Well, when I'd be right before I started, I'd walk into pro shops and say, where are your cotton golf shirts? And I'd be usually talking to a young assistant pro, and
Oh,
he'd look at me like I asked him, does pi r squared equal? It was like he
Yeah.
didn't even understand what I was
yeah,
asking him.
Where do you
yeah,
So
keep your mashy niblets?
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. When you started designing, what did you use as your basis for, what you call a basic? And then when you design for men,
Yeah.
what's your first? I mean, you're a guy, so you know what guys want. I would have to
Yes.
go out and interview 100 guys to find out what they want.
No,
what is it that you can put into it that is different and that you think appeals to your customers?
well, first of all, guys are easy to fit. If you can get it over their shoulders, that's, then they're square from there down.
Okay.
There's not the shapes that you have with women. So, comfort is a big thing with men, and everything that we do really has we aim for it to be the most comfortable cotton shirt, cashmere sweater, pair of shorts. Comfort is a huge part of our story, but it's not comfort like I'm wearing a loose pair of sweatpants and I'm so comfortable in them because they're not touching me. It has to be tailored to fit you, and so every detail that we put into it are really gearing it towards having it fit well, but also be an incredibly comfortable fabric. So, in order, what we looked for, Peruvian Pima cotton, which is what we make our cotton out of, is the most soft cotton. It's made from the same seed as Egyptian cotton or American Supima cotton, but based on the fact that it's grown in Peru, it's incredibly soft. Okay. Egyptian cotton, as we know, in our bed sheets and our dress shirts are strong and they're soft, but they're also brilliant in color. American Supima cotton is really strong. That's why we make denim out of it. So this cotton is incredibly soft, and we make soft polo shirts and boxer shorts and regular shorts out of them.
Things that touch your skin.
Yes.
Okay.
There's nothing worse than a golf shirt that's a little rough. And under the edges, when you're playing golf under your armpits, by the end of the day, you're like rubbed raw.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, maybe I shouldn't have bought that $29.95 special at Kmart.
Yes.
Well, now let's not poo-poo other manufacturers have a different market.
There's a market for all sorts of things. There's a market for cheap, and there's a market for quality, and there's a market for design. So, you've got to figure out. I don't know what men's tastes are as far as fashion goes, but I mean, you can see in the marketplace now where everybody can start their own shirt company in China and do whatever they want, that there's a wild array of tastes.
Well, I used to say that men walk to the first tee and want to fit in, and women walk to the first tee and want to stand out.
Oh, that's really good.
What a great line.
I think that's still true, in that guys are trying to fit in like their friends, like their friend group, like their foursome. They want to walk to the first tee with their foursome and not give them any extra ammunition on what to give them a hard time about. And I think women, if Kathy, if you walk to the first tee and one of your friends is wearing exactly the same thing, my guess is you'd be horrified.
Well, it'd be disconcerting for a minute or two, but you go on with it.
Well, who your partner was, right?
Yeah.
That's right. I used to have a Hello Kitty head cover that I had in my driver, and I just couldn't wait for somebody to give me a hard time about it. Because at the time I was still a pretty good player. So great. I want you to underestimate me. Shockingly, nobody ever said a word about it. It was so disappointing, Billy. I don't know what happened.
Well, they probably said he's got to be one gosh darn good golfer in order to have a head cover like that.
Oh yeah.
Like Tiger with his Tiger head cover.
Yeah. Maybe they just felt sorry for me. Like, look at this guy. It's pathetic. He might be mentally deficient. Leave him alone.
Now, Billy, how did you get involved in the team outfitting? How did that happen?
That was when, speaking of Tiger, when Tiger was the captain of the President's Cup 4 years ago, 5 years ago, he made the decision that he wasn't going to use Nike for the outerwear. And so he asked the PGA to bring in all the outerwear from all the different resources.
Okay.
And he was going to wear test it all. And he did that. And he chose the zero restriction outerwear, which I design as well.
Yeah.
And so we formed a relationship with the PGA then, doing the outerwear for the American team. Then the following President's Cup championship, Tiger told Davis Wood and Trevor Immelman, the outerwear was so good with zero restriction, you should should try it. So that next President's Cup, both Davis and Trevor used zero restriction to make the outerwear. And then we came around to the most recent President's Cup, and Lacoste had been kind of, I guess, well, the PGA wasn't exactly happy with the service and the product they were getting from Lacoste. So they asked us if we would like to do all of the uniforms and, have BDraddy do the players day in, day out clothing. And then we would do the outerwear as we had been with zero restriction. So that was really how we got into it. We kind of performed our way into it.
Well, that's the best
Wow.
way to do it.
It is definitely.
If only in an ad you could say tested by Tiger,
Yeah,
preferred by Tiger, because you can't get a better endorsement.
No, and now he's got his own golf brand, so
yeah,
I can just tell the story how it happened, and we leave it at that.
Now, I saw on your website, it looked like you and a brother, maybe, standing beside a lake, and it looked like, to me, when I looked at it, I went, that looks like someplace in New England. So I just figured it was like Connecticut or someplace, and the two of you have been to a wedding or what, something like that. That's the kind of picture it looked like to me.
That sounds accurate. Okay.
So I figured that your clothing was based on that kind of lifestyle.
For sure. I grew up on the water. I go out to the water every single morning and watch the sunrise. I feel very connected with the ocean. And so even though we aren't a surfing brand or a sailing brand or something like that, there is a strong history between golf and the water. All links courses are a link from the ocean to the land. And so, I feel very attached to it. It's as important to me in my life as almost anything except for my family. So, there is a link between, kind of the brand and being along the water.
Well, the nice thing about a golf shirt is you can really wear it anywhere.
Yes.
And fit in, other than unless you have to work in an office and wear a tie and button down shirts, but it's all purpose for really anything. So I think that's one reason I've always liked them. It's like, it's just what I wear every day. That's it.
Yeah. And one thing we heard, even before we started making, technical golf shirts, was that guys would say, oh, I wear, a tech shirt to play golf in your shirt, but I wear yours to the barbecue, or I wear it, put on my bathing suit, go to the pool or the beach. So I think our shirt easily transitions, from the links to, by the water.
Well, now who are the tour players you got involved with? I think it was Brian Harmon and.
Yeah, he's one of them. Our first one was Zach Blair. And, Zach was like the perfect, I always kind of pictured our tour pros the way that you mentioned John Ashworth earlier, how they would be very synonymous with the brand. And, Zach was like that kind of tour pro where he loved golf architecture. He was always running around and playing, local private courses, top 100 golf courses when he was traveling around on tour. And that's how actually he discovered us. He'd go into Maidstone or Wingfoot and he'd see, BDraddy displayed there. So when his contract was up with his prior outfitter, they contacted us and it seemed like the perfect fit because all of our tour pros at that point were what we called mid-am golfers, guys that, played competitive golf, but they had a job that they went to every single week. And so he seemed like the perfect transition between that mid-am golfer and a tour pro.
And so who did you pick up after that?
After that, Brian Harmon was one of them. We've got Victor Perez. We've got Taylor Moore. We just got Justin Leonard, and he,
he just won.
He's been with us for 17 days, and he won the first tournament in 17 years yesterday. So,
well, obviously it was the shirt.
It had to be some combination of it. I'm sure it wasn't just the shirt, but he also, he was one of the assistant captains on the President's Cup, and he said, I was done with the President's Cup, and I found when I was at home, I was always grabbing my gear from the President's Cup. He liked it so much. I know his agent pretty well, and he reached out, and it just seemed like a perfect fit. So I was actually at the country club about to start my career in golf the next day when he sunk that putt in the Ryder Cup. So
Yeah.
I've always felt a little bit attached to him.
It's
He
easy
said
to
he's
feel
never gone a
attached to Justin.
day. He's never gone a day without somebody mentioning that to him ever since that.
It's definitely
I
top
bet.
3 things I've ever witnessed in sports. That's for sure.
It's definitely one of the top 3 most memorable golf shots
Yes.
in our
Yeah.
lifetimes. You know,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
I don't know what the other 2 are, but
Yeah.
that's one
That
of
one's
them.
up there. Well, for
Tiger
shots that
has
mean
about 12
something.
of them.
Yeah.
This may be a little off the wall, but I mean, the golf shirt industry, and that includes all the low end, it seems like the Wild West. If I wanted to start my own company, my own brand, I can make a connection with somebody in China and they start pumping out the flowery shirts or whatever crazy patterns I want. Everybody and their brother seems to be on the internet peddling their shirts from 39 to 49 to 59. Can you kind of describe what the golf apparel business, mostly shirts, the outerwear, what is it like now versus how has it changed in your 11 years?
Well, I think we go through ebbs and flows of different looks. I mean, if you look back to the early 90s and look at some of those golf shirts that Duffy Waldorf was wearing, or even, you remember those Tabasco golf shirts? Those
Yeah.
were incredibly ugly. So I think we go through these stages where, usually it's on the back end of a print cycle, because prints you can make anything. You find an ugly picture, you can print it on a golf shirt. But when you're doing stripes and stuff like that, or tight little geometric patterns,
Yeah.
there are technical refinements to that. So I think it's just a stage. I think all those golf shirts make our golf shirts look a lot better. So I'm never really one to make fun of them. I did notice that kind of when everyone came out of COVID, they did have like one crazy golf shirt that they must have bought while they're on the internet, at home all alone, and didn't have a friend around to give them a hard time about buying
Yep.
it. So that's one thing I did notice.
Well, Ricky Fowler single-handedly revived the color orange when he got on tour to the point where all the colors got bright. And as soon as that happens, and as soon as you see a 52-year-old guy wearing bright orange shorts, it's peaked. It's time to go back to next up is going to be white and, navy blue solids. Yeah. It's like a pendulum that goes back and forth. I can't imagine how you keep traditional stuff, obviously based on your website, but how do you come up with a new line of stuff? I mean, how do you judge what next year's taste is going to be?
All right.
Well, it's the easy thing is it all has to be my taste. So,
Okay.
Well, that's easy. You're a benevolent dictator.
Yeah. I've been doing this now for 25 years. So I have a full cycle of fashion cycle of designs to reference back to, plus, 3 generations in the golf clothing business to reference. So I don't really usually end up having a hard time finding inspiration.
Yeah,
Who's
well,
the best
as Tiger
golfer?
would say, you've got the reps. You've put the reps in.
Yes.
That's true.
You've done your reps.
Who's the best golfer in your family? Is it you, or is it one of
It's
your brothers?
actually, no, it's probably my oldest son right now.
Okay.
He has spent the most time playing golf. Oddly enough, all the athletes in our family are probably better football players, basketball players, hockey players, baseball players than they are golfers, but they all love golf. But my father, my grandfather were professional football players. My brother played college football, and my brother was an exceptional basketball player. My best sport was baseball. My kids all play hockey and football. And they're all better at that than they are golf. But the one common thing is we all love golf. And I think that's what makes the sport so special, is that athletes from all different disciplines come in and they love the game and are challenged by the game.
You have an
as soon
annual
as Saquon
contest.
Barkley gets done with the Super Bowl, he's talking about he wants to be what do I have to do to break 80, or right away he was talking about golf. So
yes.
And you got Barkley, who's, we know about his golf history. So
yeah, and NBA guys, professional quarterbacks. They all want, hockey players are probably as a group of athletes, they're probably the best golfers.
They're very good.
Yeah.
That eye-hand coordination to hit the puck.
A slap shot is a driver swing on ice. So
I noticed on your website you've got a whole line of college logos available.
Yeah.
So if you want to get a shirt, and it was a long. I was expecting maybe the top 24 power schools, but you've got a long list. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, we would take as many as we get. As you perform with the NCAA, they kind of give you a couple more and a couple more.
Oh,
so we've actually had good success, and we're going to continue to build on that. We would take every school. Believe me, I have nieces and nephew who go to certain schools, and we don't make clothing with their school logo, and I get a hard time for it. So we would take them all on. It's just a matter of time. I'm building that relationship with the NCAA.
Well, what's the next big thing on your list that you are trying to do for your company? What's the next direction?
President's Cup for 2026. We haven't been awarded the bid, so we have to put together a presentation. So just this weekend, I was working on that. And then we just went through the SKU plan for fall 2026, if you can believe that. So I'm going to start designing fall 2026 next week. So I've got lots of new great ideas for that. So that's where my world is heading right now.
Can you tell us a secret and tell us what the colors are going to be for that year?
For the President's Cup, I can guarantee it'll be red, white, and blue.
Yes. No, I meant for 2026.
I haven't figured them out yet. They just told me kind of like the SKU plan, which is like all the amount of styles that I can design, and color will be next, but I haven't figured out the color yet.
Now, you should have lied and said, oh, that's top secret. It's proprietary. We've got some incredible stuff, but I just can't tell you right now.
I will give you guys the exclusive.
Billy. Obviously, people can go to your website, BDraddy. Where else are you guys in green grass shops? Where can people look for your stuff?
Almost exclusively in green grass shops. We have a couple of retailers that we sell around the country, but really we do of our wholesale business, 98% of it is done in green grass shops. So we do a little bit of business with the USTA for the tennis open. We've sold product for the Kentucky Derby, little things like that. But for the most part, if you go to your local club or resort, you'll find our product.
How about the college logo line? Are those in any college bookstores or at college golf courses, or are those online?
Yes, you could find them in college bookstores, but you could also go to our website and buy them there. And there's a bunch of other collegiate websites that you can buy them at as well, where they carry multiple college brands.
Well, I know when I went to the University of Wisconsin a million years ago, I didn't set foot in the bookstore very often.
Yeah,
I forget why that was, Billy.
Yeah. That's one of I have a son right now who's applying to colleges, and that's one of his first choices. He saw that pond hockey tournament that they do every year, and I think he fell in love right there.
Pond hockey? Where do they do? What do they do? They go out and skate on that lake in Madison?
Yeah, for sure.
They do.
Yes.
You can learn a lot from the bookstore. My son was being recruited by the University of New Orleans. And they were offering him a full ride for golf. And we went in and went to the bookstore and looked. And on the way out, after we came out, I asked him, I was like, do you notice anything odd about the bookstore? And he goes, no, what? I said, well, did you see what was near the checkout stand? And he said, no. I said, there was about a rack of 40 umbrellas for sale. What do you think that means? It's New Orleans. And, he wound up not going there, even though he had to turn down a full ride. But had he gone that fall, but it was right when Katrina hit. So because there were umbrellas there, that talked him out of going. But yeah, you look around, you can learn a lot in a bookstore.
I saw bottle openers.
I probably should have bought some of those textbooks. Well.
Well, Wisconsin is a good place for bottle openers.
Yes.
and cheese.
Yeah,
A lot of cheese.
and cozies.
Yes, and toots.
What's been your most? Is there one single pattern or color that's been your all-time number one champ?
Well, I
biggest
tell
seller?
you, the product that we've sold the most units of is our boxer shorts. And if you had asked
Really?
me before I started that our best-selling style was going to be our boxer shorts, I would have said no way. But yeah, on our website, we sell more boxer shorts in dollars and units than anything else.
They must be very comfortable.
Yeah, they are. They're made of the same fabric that we use to make our polo shirts. And I have a saying, if it's good enough to throw over your shoulders, it's good enough to throw under your carriage. So that's why our boxer shorts are so successful.
That's another good. I hope that slogan's on your website somewhere.
You're a king of slogans.
And a little registered trademark right next to it.
Okay. Well, Billy, I know you're busy. We don't want to take too much of your time. And
thank you.
Your PR people have promised us some pictures that we can kind of put over different parts of the interview as you're talking. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And we hope we'll get a chance to talk with you again.
I would enjoy that.
I can't wait to go to your website and check out the boxer shorts. You got me intrigued now.
Yes.